Starting in around 2017, the child care issue became much more prevalent in our community. It got a lot more attention and it started getting a lot more engagement because of the Workforce Innovation for a Strong Economy plan that the Seven Rivers Alliance put together. That initiative was about mapping out a plan to recruit folks to the workforce in the Seven Rivers area. And they identified 3 issues that were barriers to that recruitment. And one of those issues was childcare. So while the childcare issue was well known to folks in early care and education, like myself and colleagues around the state, that initiative, that study, really put childcare on the map as an issue in this area that we need to work on collectively in order to figure out some solutions. As a result, since that time, we've been doing some research, we've been doing educating and engaging, and we have some really good work behind us that puts us in a good position for effective strategizing in 2022, as now that we have some resources in front of us that we can invest into some pilot programs or some ideas that we've had for a long time about how to work on this childcare issue.
What would you underscore as the major differences between where you think you were in 2017 and where you think you are now?
That is a really good question. And my first answer is that the conditions contributing to the childcare challenges have deteriorated. In 2017, we were looking at a decrease of number of regulated childcare providers in La Crosse County. I think it had went from 2015, we had about 200 regulated providers. 2017, we had about 100. So we lost 50% in that short amount of time. Today in La Crosse County, we have 92 regulated childcare programs, and only 76 of those 92 care for children 0 to 5 years of age. So that's a big difference. That's a big drop. Some of the things that we heard from parents in 2017 about the challenges to finding care. One of our surveys said 86% of families were saying they had a challenging time finding childcare. They didn't have choice. I don't have an updated percent there, but the stories we hear from parents now are dramatically different. They're saying, I've called everybody on the list that I got from the Child Care Resource and Referral. There are no openings. There are waiting lists that are 2 years out. They're desperate. And what we're hearing is more frequently is that parents are turning down jobs because of childcare. They just can't find it.
So the situation has gotten worse, both in terms of availability and in terms of need. Why are you in a better position to say this is what we should be doing?
We know here in this community that if we can figure out compensation that we know we've identified, and where it makes us in a good spot to move forward with some strategies. So since 2017, one of the things that we've done at the Parenting Place is we hear about child care providers who leave the field. We ask them, why are you leaving? And the majority of the responses are, I just can't afford to keep doing this job I love. I cannot take care of my family at $12 an hour without any benefits.
We hear about the challenge of compliance. We hear about people talking about, is it possible that we could reduce cost if we were able to use some of the space in elementary school buildings? Has there been any discussion about the capacity or possibilities for reducing the cost in other areas in terms of operation?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Reducing costs is likely part, a small part of those solutions. A couple points about that is most childcare budgets, when you look at them, compensation is the biggest budget line item.
Mhm.
After that, you're going to find food costs and some space costs, which will vary. Some places own their buildings, other are renting. If you're looking at in-home providers, they own their own homes. So I suspect cost savings will be helpful, but it's not going to free up so much money that childcare providers can recruit new staff at, $4 or $5 more an hour. And frankly, that's kind of what you're looking at now, when the average rate of pay is around $12 an hour, and folks are leaving those jobs for positions at $18, $20 an hour with benefits.
How big an issue is transportation?
It is a big issue, rural communities, and especially parents prefer that, and that's something else we learned early on in this research, is that parents prefer to have childcare arrangements close to their homes rather than their employers. And that being said, if you're a low wage income owner or earner, and filling up the gas tank is a lot more expensive like it is today, it's a challenge to be efficient and get those kiddos where they need to go. Rural communities, again, are even more challenged. The distance between home and childcare and work is great.
Let me go back up to workforce and compensation. On the workforce side, it's both compensation and availability of people who are skilled. Do we have a count based upon the providers in the Seven Rivers area for how many people we need? Let's assume for a moment we could deal with the compensation issue.
Mhm.
How many people are we short?
That is a really good question, and I happen to have the answer for that for La Crosse County. We just did a survey with our La Crosse County providers last week, and there are 71 open positions in childcare programs in La Crosse County right now. That's up from 68 in September, I think it was. So people continue to leave the early care and education workforce. One thing that another targeted area we've identified is that pipeline, and how can we generate more interest in that field, and how can we support people into that work. So there are a couple new initiatives starting to be unveiled targeting childcare workforce, and one is the Childcare Explorers program to identify students, high school students, who are interested in the childcare field and get them coursework while they're in high school, so that they're ready to go into the field upon graduation. And included in that would be the foundational courses that you need, the entry-level courses for childcare. So La Crosse School District is working on that. We're working with them, and it's a new strategy to try to get some new folks into that field. They may not be long-term, but that's an example of something that we want to try and see what happens.
So if I take 71 people and I say every region in the state and across the country, thank goodness, this interest in early care and education has ramped up, okay? And the problems, the challenges are similar but not identical, obviously region to region. But that means that the competition both to produce workers and to recruit them and keep them is going to be pretty intense for the next 3 to 5 years, right?
Yep, in all sectors, yes.
Okay, and so part of the compensation issue will be part of that, and there'll probably be an inflation hit. But if I look at that 71 and you say, let's say you want to add somewhere between $5 and $10 an hour to that process, and you say, how long does it take to train people? Let's assume that that when all is said and done, you manage your competitive ability, as you're suggesting, through the Child Care Explorer program, by getting local folks who are already here with family, et cetera, and moving them through the system. How long is the training, education, qualification process from the time you pull that trigger to when they would become available?
Mhm. That Child Care Explorer program is, I think we designed it to be 6 or 8 weeks or a semester, something like that. So that would get the minimal qualification or educational requirements for somebody to work in early care and education. Compared to a 4-year degree, that's pretty speedy.
Mhm.
And it fills a gap. So with the entry-level courses, which are 2-year campus has, it used to provide, but here's just another indication of just how complex this issue is, some campuses have decided to not offer those courses anymore because they want their students to graduate and be in gainful employment. And childcare is not gainful employment. So it seemed to them to be a disservice to recruit students to take these courses and then not be able to have a livable wage once they enter the workforce. So there's a gap in those entry-level courses, and that's some of the work that's being done right now is to increase access to the entry-level courses.
Does your organization or other organizations provide assistance, guidance, coaching to the providers? And if so, what does that look like?
One of the programs we offer is something called pre-licensing, and that is available across the state. And its intention is to help prepare individuals who want to do licensed family care or child care centers to be a successful completion of the licensing process. And that works. We know that is one thing that we know works. In 2021, we probably had about 4 or 5 family providers in our region go through that licensing process. We had 2 centers go through that pre-licensing process that are now open. And we have some licensed centers that will be licensed centers in progress right now. And it's just, their path to getting their businesses open has been a year or 2. But that kind of support is really needed to help people understand the regulations, apply them properly, and ensure that they're not delayed in opening because their building wasn't ready, their space wasn't ready.
What's the single most important things you and your peers are doing at the moment to try to address the situation? And what would you say to those parents about what's the most important thing they can be doing at the moment to help move this issue forward?
The basic advice for any family is the second someone knows that they're pregnant and they know they want to return to work after they have the baby, then they start looking for childcare immediately. That's the first thing on the list. After that, sometimes it's families just planning their budgets for the cost of childcare. And for some families, I would even recommend that they really do look at their budgets and decide if it is the right financial move for them to use childcare and what that looks like. And for 2-income families, that might mean a parent is staying home. And I suspect, we don't have the research on this, but I suspect that's been the solution for a lot of families.
And what advice would you give the childcare providers?
They just keep talking, they keep working at it, they keep brainstorming themselves, they keep looking for solutions, they keep advocating for themselves, reaching out to their elected officials, keep talking to us at the parenting place. And when the resources are out there, access them. You know, child care counts that came out from the state has been incredibly helpful to those child care businesses who are still out available right now. We've heard many times that if it weren't for child care counts and the new infusion of resources, that they wouldn't be open right now.
When you look at what's going on now, are you optimistic that we're moving in the right direction, or at least that the conversation is becoming better informed and better focused?
Yeah, yes. So even though the solutions aren't easy and obvious, there is some optimism, and there's also some energy that comes from people coming together to look for solutions and have a common goal in mind. You know, I'm really hopeful that the ARPA dollars will create those resources we've been looking for a long time to try different initiatives to see really what does work in making some changes in childcare. And we know we need immediate solutions, we need midterm, and we need long-term ones. And when I say long-term, I'm talking about sustainability. But right now, with what we know about the existing number of providers, we're bleeding. You know, our community we got to stop the bleed somehow. So those immediate solutions that could help, we're looking for those and ready to take some action on them.
And as you talk to your peers around the state, if you do talk to your peers around the state, similar kinds of feelings, right? Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, it's a big problem that's very complex to figure out when it's not unique to our community. It's the same thing in the entire state of Wisconsin, and it's the same conditions in our country. I betcha there are these conversations happening in every state or every county of the country.